So I want to first start by asking how you figure out who to pay attention to. Does it matter if someone's connected to a big newspaper or magazine anymore? How can crowdsourcing work with Twitter? Like, who do you trust, and how do you figure out who's worth trusting?
The bad news is that there's a lot of stuff out there and it's impossible to get through it all. Mm-hmm. And where do you start? And it seems overwhelming. That's really the only bad news for me as a user, but also as a creator of that kind of content. The really great news is that with touches and clicks and the barest amount of elbow grease because of the beauty of the nature of the search engine, the people who are being read, who are being talked about, and who are creating great stuff seem to pop up, right? I mean, I can't tell you, I think a long, long time ago, someone at an event put a first copy of an edible magazine into my hand, and I collect them to the point that my wife and my staff, are annoyed with me because there's so many great versions of it. That was a horrible word choice, but you know what I mean. I've been looking at a life worth eating. I couldn't even tell you when I started looking at it, but that's the kind of thing that I look at, and I actually read everything I can that's associated with these guys to help me create my content. The same way I look at everything on Eater. Mm-hmm. I have to inhale. I consider myself a whale. I have to suck in an enormous amount of seawater to get my take on the landscape, because what I do is attract people to myself through my personality and what I'm thinking and feeling.
For me, the photos are the most important. Mm-hmm. They tend to be objective. Even if they're photos of poor quality, you can still get a sense of what the chef is thinking, what the dish looks like. And more often than not, I'll go to a restaurant because of how an experience or a dish looks over how somebody wrote about the restaurant. Because when it comes down to someone's opinion, there are too many other influential factors that can make me agree or disagree with them. The more photos, the more media. It still seems like there's a tremendous curation process, like you said, that we have to do as diners before choosing to go to a new place. I mean, there are photos on Flickr, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and it still requires a lot of research to kind of bring everything together. I don't think I have one source over another, but I just try to get as much visual information as I can before.
But aren't there like a group of friends or people that you've trusted? Because now I'm pissed at you because I trust you and I want you to trust me. And I mean that in the kindest way. I look at a couple, when I see one person say I like some place, or you gotta check out this chef, or this is a really cool ingredient, and it could start with a picture, I then will wait and see, where's that person, restaurant, idea, ingredient popping up? And if enough people I trust it's popping up with them, I want to go check it out.
Right.
I would agree with what Andrew and Adam have said. It's this trade-off between the really big voice, the person who shows up high on Google searches, and then your trusted group of friends. I was near Citi Field last night and looking for a place to eat, and I Googled best tacos near Citi Field, and plenty of stuff shows up. But it was hard to parse what was going to be a good choice, and I didn't want to commit to driving to one place and have to go to another, so then I Googled best tacos near Citi Field, Robert Setsuma, the Village Voice critic, and a much more narrow list showed up. So it was this sort of combo of the personal and the global search. But I will say that partly what guides us is this mantra of online, you have to be guided by analytics as opposed to instinct. So we are shifting in some ways towards the type of writing that I think shows up more on Eater. Thinking about recipes, thinking about reviews, photo-driven content, even more than we do, because we want to bring our readers who are interested in the backstory and the mission along and gain new readers, because we're known for print, as you're saying, but our own analytics show that we now have lots more readers online than we ever will have in print, and in many ways our print readership is just going to continue to decline.
All right, well, one thing that I was asked to ask was about how a restaurateur can recover from a bad review. I know we have a lot of restaurateurs in the audience. From a media perspective, how does someone recover from a bad review?
Well, reviewing, I was just going to say, reviewing is not really our shtick.
Part of the conversation was, do we publish negative reviews? And of course, we decided we will, because otherwise we're just writing press releases and just being cheerleaders, and that's not really what we do. But when you do write a bad review, you have to think about why you're doing it. Like, is this just for an entertainment value? Is this, what is the point? But people spend a lot of money in restaurants, so you want to make sure you're giving them the good advice. Like, where should you be spending your money? Where would you be wasting your money?
Well, especially that's we deal with that at the magazine. I deal with it on my website. I deal with it in my show. If there's people say, why didn't you tell that little lady in the hut in, Gabon that you weren't really fond of her awful sausage? And it's like, because the animal she killed was one of 2 she owned, and I'd rather be a better guest. And that, to me, is the small mom and pop restaurant that if you send someone into because there's buzz and it's not that good, you're probably not going to write about it.
Right.
But if I came to New York and spent a year promoting the fact I'm opening a 500-seat, barbecue joint, wild game barbecue joint in Times Square, I would imagine if it sucked, I would expect you guys to come in there and say it, because I'm out there telling everyone, come see me, and you're trying to be the gatekeeper, right?
Yeah, I think ambition has a lot to do with it, and the scope of the project, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's also important to make the distinction between a bad review and a bad experience. I mean, I don't review restaurants. If I go to a restaurant once, it's very hard for me to say it's a bad restaurant. I can say I had a bad experience there. I didn't like this dish because of this reason. But I think it's very important to make that distinction. But I think something that restaurants could be doing a lot more is just sharing their own content. I love restaurants that have a blog or that post their own photos of food. I mean, I get a lot of, you see a lot of complaints about restaurants that, oh, well, we don't allow photography because the diners take bad photos. Well, I mean, you should be posting your own photos and sharing what you're doing with the media, so that there's a balanced sense of what's happening in the restaurant.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity there for restaurants.
For sure.
And it's shocking to me how often it's missed. I probably follow 400 chefs on Twitter, and I can name the 3 or 4 that take photos of specials being plated or dishes in the restaurant and post them. And they are the ones that have grown their social media.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to me, and I have a lot of friends in the restaurant business and friends who are, and I'm always saying, how come you don't do it? And they're like, I don't know. It seems. I said, just assign it to what.
Just do
find
it.
someone that it's boom, 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 click, and it is a